In the treasury of human wisdom, the teachings of the Buddha carry a very special power. They are not loud. They do not force. They do not promise quick miracles. Yet every word, every insight has the power to touch the deepest part of the human heart. The Buddha did not teach people to run away from life. He taught us to understand life. He did not teach us to demand that the world change according to our wishes. He taught us to return to ourselves and transform ourselves, not to become weaker, but to become strong in the right way, not to surrender, but to become wise, not to give up, but to let go of what is not worth holding. This video is a journey through 39 golden teachings, 39 doors opening inward to the heart. Each teaching is not simply meant to sound beautiful, it is meant to help us look back at ourselves. Maybe today you are tired, maybe you are lost, maybe you are carrying silent wounds. But if you truly listen, if you truly pause, perhaps one sentence in this video will become the turning point that helps you live more peacefully, more clearly, and with a deeper understanding of your own worth. Let your heart grow quiet. Listen with sincerity, and begin this journey of inner transformation with the first teaching. The first teaching of the Buddha. Gratitude is the root of being human. The Buddha taught that a person who knows gratitude does not lose the foundation of morality. In one lifetime, a person may forget many things, but should never forget those who once helped them through hardship. When we were poor, who gave us a meal? When we fell, who reached out a hand? When we were lost, who patiently showed us the way? Those things did not come by chance. They were blessings, kindness, and grace given to us by life itself. Many people are deeply loyal and full of feeling when they are still struggling. But once life becomes more comfortable, they forget the very people who stood beside them in the storm. To forget kindness is a sign that the heart is beginning to grow dry. And when the heart grows dry, no amount of money can bring true peace. A person who does not know gratitude slowly begins to live in ego, in comparison, in endless wanting. And when one only knows how to receive but not how to remember or repay, one slowly drains away one's own blessings. Gratitude is not merely saying thank you. Gratitude is living in a way that is worthy of what we have received. If our parents sacrificed for us, gratitude means honoring them. If our teachers guided us, gratitude means living with decency. If someone once pulled us out of despair, gratitude means becoming someone who later helps lift others up. People who know gratitude carry warmth in their eyes. They do not become arrogant when they succeed. They do not become ungrateful when they prosper. They do not turn their backs on those who once walked with them through difficult roads. The Buddha taught that remembering kindness is the root of goodness. A person who keeps gratitude alive in the heart will preserve the most beautiful part of their humanity, even in a cold and restless world. The second teaching of the Buddha. You may be poor in money, but do not be poor in character. The Buddha did not measure a person by wealth or status, but he always reminded us to protect our moral quality. Perhaps today you are not rich. Perhaps you have not yet found your place in society. Perhaps you are struggling every single day just to live. There is no shame in that. What is truly frightening is to become so deprived that you lose your self-respect, so desperate that you accept a small and degraded way of living inside your soul. Material poverty does not make a person small, but poverty of character does. There are people who have very little money, yet they live honorably, keep their word, show respect, and stand upright in adversity. They may be poor in circumstance, but they are never poor in dignity. And precisely those people command the deepest respect. When hardship comes, it is easy for people to grow bitter, jealous, and narrow-hearted. When they see others doing better, they become uncomfortable. When they see others succeed, resentment rises. But the Buddha taught that the more deprived we are, the more we must keep the heart clear, because greed and insecurity are two flames that burn the inner life the fastest. A person who cannot guard the heart in poverty may not live kindly even if wealth eventually arrives. True dignity does not come from beautiful clothes or polished words. It comes from facing suffering without losing kindness. It comes from failing without cursing life. It comes from being looked down upon without lowering yourself. Some people live in grand houses, yet all we see in them is unrest. Others live simply, yet wherever they stand, they radiate steadiness. So if today you do not have much, do not despise yourself. As long as you preserve sincerity, willpower, goodness, and self-respect, you already carry within you a kind of wealth that no money in this world can buy. The third teaching of the Buddha, the greatest beauty is inner purity. Many people spend their whole lives chasing outer beauty. They fear aging, fear wrinkles, fear that they will no longer stand out in the eyes of others. But the Buddha taught that true beauty does not lie in appearance. It lies within. A beautiful face changes with time, but a soul that is bright, peaceful, and compassionate becomes more beautiful the longer it lives. You may have met people who are not especially striking in appearance, yet when you are near them, you feel lighter. Their voice is not harsh, their gaze is not aggressive. Their way of being makes others feel respected and safe. That is beauty born from within. A beauty that does not need to display itself, because it naturally shines. By contrast, some people look flawless on the outside, yet only a few words from them can leave others exhausted. Jealousy, envy, cruel speech, pretension, all of these stain a person's face in a much deeper way. When the inside is restless, the outer expression cannot truly shine. When the heart is full of anger, the face cannot remain gentle. The Buddha taught that if we want to become truly beautiful, we must begin by refining the heart. Less jealousy, less comparison, less attachment, less anger. Learn to smile at what is still incomplete. Learn to forgive what has already passed. Learn to look at others with kind eyes. When the heart is peaceful, the face becomes peaceful. When the mind is clear, the whole presence becomes clear. When the heart is gentle, the whole person becomes easier to love. The most beautiful kind of beauty is not the kind that makes others admire you at first glance. It is the kind that makes others feel at peace when they are with you. And that is the kind of beauty that can remain with you for an entire lifetime. The fourth teaching of the Buddha: do not let your heart become small. Some people may be physically small, yet their hearts are vast like the sea. Others may look strong, yet their inner world is cramped, unable to hold even one word they do not like. The Buddha taught that what makes a person truly precious is not a tall body or a powerful appearance, but the spaciousness of the heart. A narrow heart turns small matters into great ones. A careless remark is enough to provoke long resentment. One offense is held and never released. Such people make themselves suffer first, and then they make others suffer as well. A small heart cannot hold joy for long. It cannot hold understanding. It tends to live in comparison, suspicion, and dissatisfaction. A spacious heart is different. It does not mean such a person never feels pain. It means they do not allow every small hurt to fill the whole of their being. They know what to keep and what to let go. They understand that life already carries enough pressure, and there is no need to weigh themselves down further with things that are not worth it. The wider the heart, the wider the road of life. The narrower the heart, the more entangled every path becomes. The Buddha did not teach us to endure everything blindly. He taught us to widen the heart enough to make room for difference. Others may not understand you yet. Others may not act well. Others may hurt or upset you, but if you allow all of that to fill your heart with irritation, then the first person harmed is yourself. A spacious heart does not make you weak. On the contrary, it is a sign of inner strength. Only the truly steady do not need to cling to every word. Only those who understand life know how to let go at the right time. Only those with real cultivation can remain calm in the face of unavoidable human friction. The fifth teaching of the Buddha: a weak body is not as frightening as a weak spirit. The Buddha looked at people from the root. There are those whose bodies are frail, whose health is not especially strong, yet their spirit is powerful. They do not collapse easily before hardship. They feel pain, but they do not surrender. They grow tired, but they do not quit. On the other hand, there are those with strong bodies but weak minds, and one small setback makes them want to give up everything. A weak spirit means being too easily defeated by circumstance. A few harsh words break you. A few failures convince you that you are worthless. Seeing others move faster makes you doubt your own path. Such a person is not broken because life is too cruel, but because inner strength has not yet been cultivated. The Buddha taught that suffering is not meant to drown us. It is meant to teach us how to rise. No one grows up in perfect peace. No one matures without tasting loss, betrayal, loneliness, or failure. What distinguishes people is not how much pain they have felt, but what they have learned from it. A strong spirit does not mean being hard all the time. It means you know how to cry and then wipe your tears and keep walking. It means you recognize your wounds, but do not turn yourself into a permanent victim. It means knowing life is difficult, yet still choosing kindness. That is true strength. If today you are tired, allow yourself to rest, but do not let your spirit surrender. A person who loses energy may recover. A person who loses money may rebuild. But a person who loses willpower finds it very difficult to go far. The Buddha called us back to the cultivation of inner strength through mindfulness, right faith, perseverance, and self-respect. When the inside is steady enough, the storms outside can no longer topple us so easily. The sixth teaching of the Buddha: keep your mind bright. Do not fall into delusion. In life, some mistakes do not come from lack of intelligence. They come from letting the mind become clouded by desire, clouded by anger, clouded by bias, clouded by praise, clouded by fleeting emotion. The Buddha taught that if a person cannot keep the mind clear, then no matter how much they learn or know, they may still ruin their own life. A clear mind sees things as they truly are. It does not exaggerate. It does not decorate. It does not call something right merely because it likes it, nor wrong merely because it dislikes it. A person with a clear mind is less likely to be dragged around by emotion. They know how to pause before speaking, look again before deciding, and ask themselves whether something is truly necessary and whether it will reduce suffering for themselves and others. Delusion often begins in very small ways: a bit of wounded pride, a bit of jealousy, a bit of competitiveness. But if these things are not recognized early, they slowly grow into fixed attachments. And from those attachments, wrong action, wrong speech, and wrong thought begin to emerge until one ends up trapped in conflict, suffering, and regret. The Buddha taught people to keep observing the mind, not to blame themselves, but to adjust in time. When you feel yourself growing hot with anger, stop. When you notice yourself overly enchanted by something, step back. When you notice how easily you are swayed or led, become more careful. In a lifetime, defeating others matters far less than defeating the confusion within yourself. If the mind is not clear, then even standing in the light, life will still look dark. But if the mind is bright, then even in difficulty, the right path can still be found. The seventh teaching of the Buddha: be intelligent, but do not become arrogant. Wisdom is precious. But the Buddha clearly distinguished between wisdom and arrogance. Some people are widely learned, sharp-minded, and quick to understand. That is a blessing. But if they begin to look down on others because of it, and imagine themselves above everyone else, then that intelligence becomes an obstacle to true growth. Arrogant people find it very difficult to learn more. Deep inside, they already think they know enough. They listen without truly listening. They argue not to discover truth, but to prove they are right. They like to compete, to display themselves, to gain recognition, but the more they crave recognition, the more restless they become inside. The Buddha taught that people with genuine wisdom are usually humble. The more they understand life, the more they realize how much remains to be learned. The more deeply they see karma and cause and effect, the more careful they become in speech and action. The more they know, the less quickly they judge others, because they understand that every person has a different situation, a different level of awareness, and a different path. Arrogance inflates the ego, and the bigger the ego, the smaller peace becomes. People who always need to win rarely feel light inside. People who always need to stand out rarely know ease. Humble people are not humble because they are lesser. They are humble because they are deep enough not to need constant proof. If today you have ability, use it to help, not to compete. If you are better at something than someone else, lift them up instead of pushing them down. If you see what is right, speak from goodness, not from a posture of superiority. Wisdom joined with humility becomes light. Wisdom joined with arrogance only makes a person more and more lonely. The eighth teaching of the Buddha: do not live lazily or meaninglessly. The Buddha did not encourage destructive overwork, but he also did not approve of a life of carelessness, laziness, and emptiness. A person who refuses to train, to work, and to refine themselves will sooner or later fall into inner emptiness. And when the outer life lacks effort, the inner life easily fills with trouble. Laziness is not only lying still and doing nothing. Some forms of laziness are subtle. Laziness in thinking clearly. Laziness in changing harmful habits. Laziness in learning. Laziness in facing what is truly wrong in one's own heart. Some people are busy every day, yet still lazy in the deeper work of conscious living. A busy life without meaning is still a wasted life. The Buddha taught that a human life is rare. A single day of life is already precious. If we simply drift through the day in complaint, delay, and resignation, it is a great loss. Effort is not for becoming better than others. Effort is for not betraying our own life, so that when we look back, we know we tried to live in a way worthy of what we were given. A diligent person does not only create material results, they also create blessings, because in diligence there is responsibility, gratitude, and the wish to contribute. Laziness, by contrast, leads to stagnation, then to insecurity, and then to envy toward those who are moving forward, and that only makes the mind more troubled. Remember, you do not need to do grand things all at once. You only need to become a little better each day. Reduce one bad habit. Add one good deed. Complete one responsibility. Keep one promise. With patient persistence, life will gradually change. The Buddha taught that the long road always begins with very small steps, but they must be real steps. The ninth teaching of the Buddha: saving is good, but do not become a servant to money. Money is necessary in life. The Buddha did not deny that, but he always reminded people not to lose peace and morality because of it. Saving money is a good virtue because it teaches moderation, foresight, and respect for one's labor. But if the heart becomes too attached to money, then money slowly becomes the measure of all value. When that happens, people begin to see others through profit. They help while calculating what they will get in return. They build relationships based on usefulness. They give respect according to wealth. Once money becomes the center of one's way of seeing, the mind is very hard to keep pure. The more one treats money as everything, the more one fears loss, defeat, and comparison. The Buddha taught that wealth is only a means, not the final purpose. A rich person who lives in anxiety is still poor. A rich person who doubts everyone, calculates everything, and worries constantly is not living in abundance at all. Meanwhile, some people do not have much, yet they know enough, use money wisely, and share when needed. Their hearts are more peaceful. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy genuine trust. It cannot buy peaceful sleep. It cannot buy willing filial love. It cannot buy a quiet heart. So the real question is not how much money you have, but whether money serves you or you serve money. Earn money through right livelihood. Guard it with clarity. Use it with wisdom, and know how to release it generously when needed. The Buddha taught that only those who master greed truly master their own life. A person dragged around by money will always feel lacking, no matter how much they possess. The 10th teaching of the Buddha: be tolerant, but keep principles. Tolerance is a great virtue. The Buddha always taught forgiveness, patience, and the ability to see beyond immediate right and wrong. But tolerance does not mean allowing others to trample you. Forgiveness does not mean allowing the same wrong to repeat forever. A kind person without boundaries becomes very easy to exploit. Some people fear displeasing others so much that they tolerate too much. They stay silent when insulted. They endure unfair treatment and tell themselves that compassion means putting up with it. Over time, others grow used to crossing their limits. In the end, that patience does not create harmony, it creates contempt. The Buddha did not teach weakness. He taught compassion guided by wisdom. A wise person knows when to be soft and when to be firm. They know what can be overlooked and what must be named clearly. They know how to forgive sincere mistakes, but also how to keep distance from those who intentionally wound them again and again. Goodness must be joined with clarity. Otherwise, goodness itself becomes a source of suffering. True tolerance means carrying no hatred in the heart while still preserving self-respect. You may choose not to retaliate, but that does not mean you must keep opening the door for someone to hurt you again. You may choose not to argue, but that does not mean you must approve of what is wrong. The Buddha taught that the middle way is always the brightest way. Neither extreme anger nor blind endurance. Keep your heart warm, but do not let it become a place anyone can injure at will. Compassion does not remove principles. On the contrary, principles allow compassion to be placed in the right way. The 11th teaching of the Buddha: everything is cause and effect. One of the deepest teachings of the Buddha is the law of cause and effect. It is not meant to frighten people, but to awaken them. What happens in life is not entirely random. What we receive today often grows from what we once thought, said, and did. And what we plant today quietly becomes tomorrow's result. When people understand cause and effect, they blame less. When things go badly, they no longer only ask why life is unfair. They begin to ask what this event is teaching them, what seeds they planted before, and what seeds they must plant now for a better future. Cause and effect is not a rigid destiny. It is a fair law that opens the possibility of transformation for everyone. A person who does not understand cause and effect can live carelessly. One cruel word seems harmless. One lie seems harmless. One act of harm seems harmless. But all those little things accumulate into karma, and when the result arrives, such a person feels wronged. By contrast, a person who understands cause and effect becomes much more careful, not because of fear, but because they know every action leaves a mark in their life. Cause and effect also teaches us not to envy the goodness in another person's life. Behind every beautiful result is often a long process of planting that we never see. Instead of envying, we should learn to plant good causes in our own lives. Guard speech, live kindly, honor parents, work diligently, share with others. These are all seeds. The Buddha taught that a person who understands cause and effect lives awake. They do not surrender their life to fate, nor blame heaven or other people. They know they are holding in their hands the power to shape the future through every thought in the present. And that is the deepest freedom of all. The 12th teaching of the Buddha: when misunderstood, do not rush to explain. In life, there are situations where the more you explain, the more tangled things become. There are times when you speak honestly, yet people still do not believe you. There are moments when you are not wrong at all, yet you are still misunderstood, suspected, and judged. The Buddha taught that in such moments, what matters most is not reacting quickly, but keeping the heart steady. Many people fall into endless conflict because they are desperate to prove they are right. They want everyone to understand them, to recognize their innocence, to see their good intention. But the truth is that not everyone has the capacity to understand you, and not every truth is received immediately. Some things can only be answered fairly by time. Silence is not defeat. Some silence comes from cultivation. A person who understands life knows that not every distortion deserves the cost of their peace. If your heart is upright and your actions are clean, then sooner or later the truth will appear. But if you keep pouring energy into defending yourself in every situation, you lose too much strength on things that do not improve your life. The Buddha taught people to examine themselves first. If you are partly wrong, then correct yourself. If you are not wrong, then remain calm. Others may misunderstand you for a time, but they cannot misunderstand you forever if you live sincerely and consistently long enough. True character speaks for itself in the end. The hardest thing is not being misunderstood. The hardest thing is being misunderstood and still not losing your gentleness, still not answering with bitter words, still not allowing one unjust wound to harden you against everyone. If you can do that, then you have not only passed through misunderstanding, you have risen to a deeper level of inner cultivation. The 13th teaching of the Buddha: anger ruins even what is right. Some people are not bad at heart. They are honest, responsible, and kind. But because of anger, they frighten others, damage relationships, and even turn what is right into something bitter. The Buddha taught that sharp words spoken in anger can wound more deeply than actions. Once released, they are very hard to take back. Anger is a fire. When it rises, the first person it burns is the one carrying it. The mind loses clarity. Judgment becomes distorted. We say what we would not normally say. We do what later fills us with regret. A single moment of anger can shatter trust built over many years. The Buddha did not teach that humans should never feel anger. He taught us to recognize and transform anger before it becomes karma. When you notice heat rising within, stop, breathe, be silent, step away from the situation if necessary. Do not answer while emotion is peaking, because in that moment, what speaks is no longer wisdom, but reaction. A cultivated person is not someone without emotions. It is someone who does not let emotions control their whole life. They still feel anger, but do not turn anger into cruel speech. They still feel pain, but do not turn pain into attack. They understand that being right is not enough. One must also be right in the right way. Truth without harmony is rarely received as truth at all. The Buddha taught that speech may be direct, but the energy behind it must remain gentle. When the mind is calm, words become clear. When the heart is still, what we say can actually transform. But if ego pushes too strongly, even truth becomes distorted. Because what saves people is not only truth, but the way truth is given. The 14th teaching of the Buddha. Forgiveness is liberation for yourself. Forgiveness is one of the most difficult and most beautiful qualities in the spiritual life. Many people think forgiveness gives the other person a way out, but the Buddha taught that first of all, forgiveness gives freedom to you. Because when you carry resentment too long, the one being bound is not only the other person, but your own heart. Resentment makes the heart heavy. It causes us to relive what happened again and again. Each time we think about it, the pain grows fresh. The present becomes shadowed by the darkness of the past. A person who refuses forgiveness may think they are preserving justice, but in truth, they are chaining themselves to an old wound. Time passes, the other person may move on while they remain trapped. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the hurt never happened. It does not mean denying the wound. It does not mean trusting as before. Forgiveness means accepting that what happened has already happened and choosing not to let it control your life any longer. Forgiveness is releasing the power of the past from your heart. The Buddha taught that anger is a root of suffering. The more you hold it, the more restless the mind becomes. The more you feed hatred, the darker life grows. Only when we understand that everyone acts according to their karma and their level of awareness can anger begin to soften. Not to excuse wrong, but to stop allowing wrong to keep burning inside us. Some people need a very long time to learn forgiveness. But even beginning with smaller steps, speaking of it less, feeding it less, letting it occupy less of your life, is already the beginning of liberation. Forgiveness is the path of inner strength. And the truly strong person is not the one who strikes back, but the one who does not allow hatred to deform the light in their own heart. The 15th teaching of the Buddha. Life has two paths, dream and reality. The Buddha always encouraged people to live mindfully in the present, but that does not mean abandoning dreams. A human life often moves along two paths at once, the inner path of dreams and the outer path of reality. If we live only in dreams without action, life dissolves into regret. If we bury ourselves only in reality and forget what the heart longs for, life becomes dry. Many young people carry beautiful hopes. They want to live meaningfully, do kind things, build a life that matters. But when they collide with reality, they become disappointed. Their dream feels too far away. Life feels too heavy. Responsibilities feel endless. Little by little, they lose what once made their heart come alive. And then they live only to get through the day. On the other hand, some people dream big but never move. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect condition, the right feeling, the right opportunity. But life never changes through thought alone. No path toward peace or accomplishment can exist without patient practice. The Buddha taught that genuine wisdom always walks with right action. Dream is the light ahead. Reality is the road beneath the feet. You do not need to live in fantasy, but neither should you live with a cramped soul. Hold on to what is beautiful within, while also accepting that every result takes time. Each day, do one thing well. Correct one habit. Take one step. That is how what lives in the heart becomes something real in life. A wise person betrays neither path. They do not abandon their dream out of fear. They do not abandon reality out of wishful thinking. When the heart has direction and the feet have discipline, then even a slow life still moves toward light. The 16th teaching of the Buddha. Happiness is actually very simple. When we were children, happiness could be a gift, an afternoon of play, a word of praise. As we grow older, we begin to think happiness must be many things: more money, more success, more love, more visibility. But the more we demand, the harder peace becomes. The Buddha taught that true happiness does not come from possessing more and more, but from living simply while still feeling enough. Modern life pulls us constantly into comparison. We see what others have and feel what we lack. We look at someone else's surface and think we are less fortunate. And so, even when much goodness already exists in our life, we do not feel at peace. The heart is always standing where it does not have, instead of where it already does. Living simply does not mean abandoning all needs. It means knowing what truly matters for a meaningful life. A meal eaten mindfully, a loved one still present, a body still healthy enough to move and work, a night of sleep undisturbed by inner torment, a heart not burning with resentment. These things seem ordinary, but when they are gone, we realize they were worth more than many glamorous things. The Buddha taught that the person who knows enough is the richest person, not because they no longer aspire, but because they do not allow aspiration to steal the peace of the present. They work, strive, and grow, but they do not sacrifice everything merely to keep pursuing more. They know when to stop. They know how to value what they already have. They know how to find joy in what is small but enduring. If today life feels too heavy, try returning to simple things. Drink a glass of water with gratitude. Walk more slowly for a few minutes. Call your parents. Smile at someone close to you. Forgive yourself for an old mistake. Perhaps you will realize that what you have been seeking for so long has actually always been nearby. The 17th teaching of the Buddha: do not trust your eyes too much. People often believe that what they see is the whole truth. But the Buddha taught that perception is easily influenced by desire, prejudice, and emotion. Sometimes we see one part and believe we understand everything. Sometimes we see one single action and conclude an entire person. Sometimes we accept only what fits our prior thinking and ignore the rest. The eyes see the surface, but not every cause. The ears hear the story, but not the full context. If the mind is angry, it misreads. If the mind is attached, it overlooks. Therefore, the Buddha taught people to be careful, even with their own way of knowing the world. Do not trust your first impression absolutely. Many conflicts begin because we look from only one angle. Someone is late, and we conclude they do not respect us. Someone is quiet, and we decide they are cold. Someone succeeds, and we assume they were merely lucky. Someone appears cheerful, and we imagine they have no sorrow. But human life is far more complex than that. Every visible action may carry unseen causes behind it. If we learn not to judge too quickly, the heart grows less angry and less clouded. We learn to observe more, listen more, and conclude more slowly. That is wisdom. Some things we were certain about today will, months later, reveal how mistaken we were. And then what embarrasses us most is not the misunderstanding itself, but the pride with which we held it. The Buddha taught, seeing is not always knowing, hearing is not always understanding. Only when the mind is quiet can we come close to the true nature of things. And that is the beginning of treating others and ourselves more fairly. The 18th teaching of the Buddha: life is short. Do not waste it in regret. A human life passes more quickly than we think. What was in our hands yesterday becomes memory today. People who were once very close may, after only a short time, become distant. The Buddha taught that life is brief, so we should not spend too much of it regretting what is gone or remaining trapped in things that can no longer be changed. Regret arises when we keep returning to the past. If only I had spoken differently. If only I had chosen differently. If only I had cherished them more. If only I had not been so angry. But life has no rewind button. The deeper we sink into regret, the more we miss the present. The more we dwell on what has gone, the weaker we become before what is arriving. The Buddha did not teach emotional numbness toward the past. He taught us to learn from the past without living inside it. If you were wrong, correct yourself. If something is gone, accept it. If you missed something, become wiser because of the pain. The value of a lesson lies in transformation, not in repeating self-torment endlessly. Some people spend years unable to move forward because they keep holding on to something already over. They let one broken relationship decide how they will trust everyone forever. They let one failure define their worth. They let one mistake from youth extend darkness all the way into the present. But that is too cruel to oneself. Life is short, too short to spend it feeding wounds that cannot be healed by replaying them. Use the time that remains to live deeply, beautifully, and worthily. The Buddha taught that only the present is where we can plant seeds, and only in the present do we truly have a chance to begin again. The 19th teaching of the Buddha: live sincerely and do not calculate too much. In a world full of manipulation, sincerity is something people both long for and fear placing in the wrong hands, because sincerity always carries the risk of being hurt. Yet the Buddha taught that no matter how complicated the world becomes, a person should still preserve a portion of sincerity, not so that everyone can see it, but so that one does not lose the best core of oneself. People who calculate too much live very tired lives. They weigh every word, every relationship, every benefit. If they help someone, they calculate profit and loss. If they love someone, they measure whether it is worth it. If they stay near someone, they ask what that person brings them. Such a life may look clever from the outside, but it becomes very dry within. Because once everything is reduced to gain, the heart loses its natural warmth. Sincerity does not mean naivety. Not everyone deserves the same openness. But if fear of being hurt turns you into someone cold, suspicious and calculating with everyone, then life will have difficulty bringing anything real to you. The Buddha taught that beautiful connections often come to those who live sincerely. Sincerity is also the way we face ourselves, daring to admit that we are weak, daring to admit fault when wrong, daring to say a genuine apology, daring to be grateful without embarrassment, daring to love without always standing in defense. Such people may not be as sharp as others, but their inner life is healthier and lighter. Humility helps us work. Sincerity helps us be human. The Buddha taught that this is the foundation of all lasting relationships. In the end, what holds hearts together is not eloquence or cleverness, but a long and steady sincerity. The 20th teaching of the Buddha: suffering will pass. No one wants to taste pain. But life does not avoid storms simply because we wish it would. The Buddha taught that life contains bitterness and sweetness, joy and sorrow, gain and loss. Suffering is not an error in life. It is a part of life. When we understand that, we are less shocked when adversity comes. There are pains that, in the moment, seem unbearable. A breakup, a betrayal, a season of total confusion, a financial collapse, the loss of someone dear. In those moments, the world feels as if it has fallen apart. We cannot imagine living normally again, and yet time moves. The wound does not disappear at once, but it slowly closes. And one day we realize that we have already passed through what once seemed impossible. The Buddha taught that impermanence is a truth. No joy lasts forever, but no pain remains unchanged either. Because all things move and change, present suffering is not a permanent sentence. What matters is whether, while in pain, we know how to care for the mind, whether we know not to rub salt into the wound with blame, resistance, and despair. When you suffer, do not rush to appear strong too early. Allow yourself to acknowledge what you feel. But after that, do not stay there forever. Breathe. Become still. Watch the pain as though it were a cloud passing through the sky of the mind. It may cover the light, but it is not the whole sky. The Buddha did not promise a life without suffering. He showed a way of passing through suffering without being destroyed by it. And when we understand this, we begin to grow in a real way. Not because we no longer feel pain, but because we understand that pain is also part of awakening. The 21st teaching of the Buddha: understanding and empathy are the bridge between people. Life would be much less cold if people truly understood one another. The Buddha taught that understanding is like a bridge and empathy is like an umbrella in the rain. One word of true understanding can save a relationship from collapse. One moment of real empathy can save a heart from despair. Most conflicts between people do not come from great evil. They come from no one being willing to step to the other side and look. We cling to our own position, our own feeling, our own sense of hurt. Each person feels they are right, and no one truly wants to understand. And so the distance grows wider and wider. Understanding does not mean agreeing with everything, nor does it mean abandoning all principle in order to satisfy someone else. It means looking more deeply into the roots of behavior. A quick-tempered person may be deeply wounded. A silent person may be utterly exhausted. A difficult person may be carrying enormous insecurity. When we understand a little more of the root, anger begins to loosen. Empathy is the attitude of a heart willing to stand where another stands. Everyone carries sorrows they cannot easily speak. Everyone has some darkness. If we expect perfection from others, disappointment is inevitable. The Buddha taught that being spacious with others is also a form of kindness toward ourselves, because none of us are without flaw. A society without understanding becomes full of judgment. A family without empathy becomes full of wounds. A heart that never makes room for another will struggle to sustain real happiness. So, before blaming someone, try understanding a little more. Perhaps what they need most is not criticism, but someone willing to listen with a full heart. The 22nd teaching of the Buddha: open your heart to forgiveness, and the road of life grows wider. The Buddha taught that life cannot consist only of people who please us. There will be those who disappoint us, those who say hurtful things, those who act against everything we expected. If we hold tightly to every grievance, the inner road grows narrower and narrower. But if we learn how to open the heart in forgiveness, life becomes much lighter. What prevents many people from forgiving is not always the size of the wound, but the size of the ego. We feel we should not have been treated this way. We cannot bear that someone caused us pain and still lives calmly. We want justice to arrive immediately, but life does not move according to our emotional timetable. Some things are only truly won when we let them go. Opening the heart to forgiveness does not mean erasing everything. It means refusing to keep carrying the mistakes of others as your burden. Some people are not worth hating for that long. Some situations are not worth more energy. Some pasts only hurt more the tighter they are held. Once we understand this, forgiveness begins to look like wisdom. The Buddha taught that the one who can release resentment is already standing at a higher place of spirit. They do not lower themselves to the wrongdoing of others. They do not allow poison to spread through the heart because of one hurt. They choose to remain light rather than sink together with darkness. Life already contains enough suffering. Do not tie extra stones to your own heart with long-held hatred. Forgive to the degree your heart can. And if you cannot fully forgive yet, begin by speaking of it less, feeding it less, hurting yourself with it less. That too is already a step on the road of liberation. The 23rd teaching of the Buddha: let joy and sorrow be moderate. Do not go to extremes. When praised, we feel joy. When criticized, we feel pain. That is natural. But the Buddha taught that if our joy and sorrow depend entirely on the words of others, the heart will never rest. People praise today and may not praise tomorrow. They criticize today and may not yet see who you truly are. If you rise and fall according to the voices of the world, you will grow very tired. When praised, be happy, but only to a moderate degree. Those words may not even come from truth. Sometimes they are politeness. Sometimes they are spoken because the other person wants something from you. Sometimes they are just temporary emotion. If you believe praise too much, pride comes easily, and with it the loss of humility and self-reflection. When criticized, be saddened, but only a little. Do not rush to anger, and do not immediately defend yourself. Ask whether there is any truth in it that can help you improve. Sometimes a hard criticism is a mirror revealing what still needs work, but do not let criticism erase your whole sense of worth. One comment cannot define an entire human being. The Buddha taught that a steady person is not easily controlled by outer conditions. Praise does not make them float away. Criticism does not make them collapse. They receive both with clarity. They know how to feel joy without attachment, pain without despair. They know that every emotion, too, will pass. To live in balance is an art. Not freezing feelings, but also not being ruled by them. Not becoming deluded by recognition, and not destroying oneself because of rejection. Moderate joy and moderate sorrow preserve a heart from destructive extremes. The 24th teaching of the Buddha: learn from water, soft yet strong. Water is a beautiful image in Buddhist teaching. It is soft, quiet, and never competitive. Yet water also carries immense endurance and depth. It reaches the smallest places, nourishes all life, and cools the world. The Buddha taught people to learn the virtue of water: soft but not weak, quiet but not inferior, accommodating but never losing itself. Many people believe that to protect themselves they must be hard, forceful, and victorious. But the longer we live, the more we see that some things can only be transformed by gentleness. A soft word can calm great anger. A timely step back can prevent useless conflict. A spirit willing to yield can open a much wider road than clinging to being right. Water does not compete, yet it arrives where it must. Water does not boast, yet it sustains the whole world. This is a profound lesson. A person of true depth does not always need to prove themselves. They do not compete with everyone. They do not need to dominate every situation. They understand that forcing things upward often only creates more exhaustion. Sometimes lowering oneself a little preserves harmony. Sometimes remaining silent avoids error. But softness does not mean letting others shape your whole life. Water is soft, but its current is clear. It bends with the land without losing its nature. The Buddha taught flexibility, not confusion. Adaptation, not the absence of principles. The softness of wisdom always walks together with the firmness of inner strength. When we learn from water, we collide less unnecessarily. The mind grows less rigid. And life, because of that, becomes much lighter. The 25th teaching of the Buddha: when hardship comes, dare to change. There are roads one walks for a long time without seeing hope. There are relationships one keeps for too long until all strength is drained. There are ways of living one clings to for years without ever finding peace. The Buddha taught that if a direction is no longer right, change is not failure. Change at the right time is wisdom. Many people suffer because they cling. They know they are exhausted but do not dare let go. They know someone is no longer right for them, yet they still hold on. They know a habit is harming them, yet they repeat it. Why? Because inside there is fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of starting again. But it is exactly that clinging that keeps them living inside extended pain. The Buddha did not teach attachment. He taught us to see clearly the arising and ending of conditions. Change may mean leaving a toxic environment. It may mean changing the way we think, changing our attitude, changing how we respond to adversity. Sometimes the problem is not outside at all, but in the grooves of our own mind. If the mind keeps the same old view, the same old attachment, the same old habit of complaint, then suffering repeats itself wherever we go. Of course, change should not be impulsive. It must be guided by clarity. But once we truly see that something is no longer healthy, stepping out becomes necessary. Staying longer is not always noble. Sometimes the person who leaves at the right time is the one who truly saves themselves. The Buddha taught that impermanence is the nature of life. Everything changes. The more a person tries to lock life into one fixed shape, the more suffering arises. Knowing how to turn when necessary does not make you less. It shows that you are awake enough not to keep wasting your life on what no longer helps you grow. The 26th teaching of the Buddha. Not every matter needs to be clarified to the very end. In many areas of life, people become obsessed with winning and losing, right and wrong, black and white. But the Buddha taught that there are places where, if we insist on absolute clarification, what gets lost is not logic, but relationship. Between family members, friends, spouses, if everything must be argued to the last point, one may be right and still be wounded. Some arguments have no true winner. The one who wins the logic may lose the heart. The one who preserves the argument may lose the bond. When emotions rise, everyone wants to prove they are right. Yet, when the debate is over, what often remains is distance, hurt and coldness between two people who were once very close. If only they had stopped sooner, perhaps things could have turned out differently. The Buddha did not teach vagueness or the abandonment of principle. He taught discernment. Some things concern core moral truth and cannot be blurred. But many conflicts are only differences in perspective, emotion, and circumstance. If every disagreement is turned into a battle that must be won, life becomes endlessly exhausting. A wise person does not rush to prove everything. They ask what each argument will cost. If victory means losing peace or losing a precious relationship, then is that victory really worth it? Sometimes stepping back is not losing. It is preserving something greater. Black is black, white is white. Time has its own way of revealing what is true. We do not need to spend all our life's energy forcing others to see from our angle. The Buddha taught that spaciousness, calmness, and gentleness are what keep life from being consumed by endless rivalry. The 27th teaching of the Buddha. Keep reminding yourself. In a lifetime, the hardest thing is not learning many new ideas. It is preserving the truths we already know. The Buddha taught that people must remind themselves again and again. Remind themselves not to lose gratitude. Remind themselves not to lose humility. Remind themselves that life is limited, time is limited, and what they do today is quietly shaping their future. We tend to be easier on ourselves than on others. We quickly see others' faults but forget to correct our own. We tell others to live kindly while we ourselves become irritable and petty. That is why self-reminding is so necessary. Each day, ask the heart a few questions. Have I lived sincerely today? Did I hurt anyone with my words? Have I been grateful for what I have? Has greed or anger pulled me too far? The Buddha taught that much of human trouble comes from forgetting our own work while becoming overly concerned with the work of others. How others live, what they think, whether they treat us fairly, all of these things easily disturb the mind. Yet what matters most is still doing our own part well. Keep the mind clear, keep speech upright, keep the heart good. Reminding yourself is not creating pressure. It is making sure the inner compass does not drift. Life offers many temptations, many collisions, many invitations to move away from what is best in us. Without awareness, it is easy to be carried off. A little rivalry, a little wounded pride, a little greed, and already we become someone else. A person who knows how to return to themselves regularly is hard to lose. No matter how the outer world changes, something inside still whispers direction. And that quiet inner voice saves them again and again from costly mistakes. The 28th teaching of the Buddha: remember the good in others and you nourish your own virtue. Human beings have a curious tendency. The kindness others show us becomes easy to take for granted over time. Yet one small fault or one small carelessness is remembered for a long time. The Buddha taught that remembering others' faults is like taking a thorn and pressing it into your own heart. Remembering their goodness, on the other hand, nourishes your own virtue and blessing. When we look only at the defects of others, the mind fills more and more with irritation. Everywhere we go, we find reasons to feel disturbed. Everyone seems flawed. We begin to believe we are the only clear-sighted one, but that is not wisdom. That is the ego growing larger. The more we pick at others, the more restless we become. The more we criticize, the harder the heart becomes. If instead we learn to remember what is good in others, the heart softens. We remember the one who helped us in hardship, the one who treated us kindly, the one who yielded, the one who cared quietly. Holding those things in the heart makes us less likely to explode because of one small mistake. This is not covering up wrong. It is seeing a person more fully and more fairly. The Buddha taught that looking at others is like looking into a mirror. The state of our own heart determines the world we see. If the heart is full of prejudice, problems appear everywhere. If the heart is broader, then every person contains something worth learning from, something worth understanding. It is easy to remember the faults of others, but the cultivated person remembers gratitude more than grievance. A family becomes warm or cold, largely because of this. If everyone only stores one another's faults and repeats them again and again, love slowly wears away. But if people keep remembering each other's goodness, each other's quiet acts of care, then compassion grows. The Buddha taught that if we want the world to become more beautiful, we must first begin by storing beautiful things in the heart. The 29th teaching of the Buddha: do not hurt those who love you. There is a sad paradox in life. With strangers, we are often polite. With those closest to us, we become the quickest to lose our temper. With outsiders, we watch our words. With loved ones, we speak the heaviest things. The Buddha taught that family is not the place where we dump all our negative emotions. It is the place that deserves our deepest care. In the world, few will love us as unconditionally as family. Very few will endure us the way those who truly love us do. Because we know they will stay, we become careless. Because we assume they understand us, we overlook the hurt we cause them. Yet wounds from loved ones always cut more deeply than wounds from strangers. A harsh word may be forgotten by someone outside, but it may remain a very long time in the heart of a parent, a spouse, a child. A cold attitude can make a loved one feel lonely inside their own home. And the most painful thing is that sometimes, by the time we realize it, it is already too late to fix what we have done. The Buddha taught that those nearest to us deserve the greatest patience. Love is not only material care. Love is how we speak. It is how we act when someone is fragile. It is how we restrain ourselves when we are upset. It is remembering that the person before us is not an enemy, but a companion. We may be tired, but that does not justify hurting them over and over. If today your loved ones are still beside you, soften a little, compete less, speak less sharply. Bring the kindness you show the world back into your own home. The Buddha taught that a person's blessing is not found only in what they offer strangers, but also in how they care for those who live very close to them. The 30th teaching of the Buddha: There are three kinds of things in life. The Buddha taught a very practical lesson for reducing mental turmoil. In life, there are three kinds of things: your own, other people's, and the affairs of heaven and earth. Much suffering comes because we confuse these categories. We neglect our own work while becoming overly concerned with other people's work and endlessly worried about what lies beyond our control. What is your own work? It is what you think, say, do, and choose. It is how you live and how you meet your circumstances. This is the part you can take responsibility for. Yet many people do not focus there. They obsess over whether someone understands them, how others judge them, why another person behaved that way, what the world is saying. The more energy goes there, the more tangled the heart becomes. Other people's work belongs to their karma, choices, and level of awareness. We may advise, support, or love them, but we cannot live for them or force them to change according to our wishes. When we interfere too much in another person's path, frustration and disappointment follow, because in the end, each person must learn their own lessons. The affairs of heaven and earth include weather, disaster, disease, death, and all forces larger than us. Excessive worry about such things does not change them. It only adds unrest to the mind. The Buddha taught that wisdom lies in doing our own part well and then accepting what lies outside our reach. Whenever you feel troubled, ask yourself, whose matter is this? If it is yours, do it well. If it is another's, interfere less. If it belongs to heaven and earth, learn acceptance and adaptability. That one clear distinction can already make the heart much lighter. The 31st teaching of the Buddha: do not spend too much time judging others. The Buddha taught that human time and energy are precious. Do not waste them on judging others. Their goodness or badness does not feed you. Their success or failure does not live your life for you. So why fill your mind with the affairs of the world when your own life already contains so much that needs learning, healing, and refining? Judging others is a habit that forms very easily. A few stories, a few images, a few visible details, and we already have conclusions. This person lives like that. That person seems happy. That family must be unstable. This one is probably unkind. But what the eyes see is usually only the surface. We do not walk in their shoes. We do not know what they have survived. We do not understand the full weight they carry. The habit of judging also stains the mind. The more we gossip, the more negativity grows. The more we judge, the larger the ego becomes. And strangely enough, what irritates us in others is often something within ourselves that has not yet been transformed. The Buddha taught that the faults we notice in others may often be reminders of where we ourselves must deepen in cultivation. Silence in unnecessary matters is not weakness. It is a form of moral speech. No one becomes greater by speaking often of others' defects. But a person who knows when to stop talking, when to guard their words, and when to let others live their own life usually possesses greater depth within. If you want to use your time well, turn back toward yourself. Have I lived well today? Have I honored my parents? Have I been honest? Have I worked with kindness? Have I kept my heart clear? The work of correcting oneself alone is already enough for a lifetime. The Buddha taught that the inward-looking person, cultivating the self, spends less energy on outward judgment. The 32nd teaching of the Buddha: happiness is for feeling, not for display. In an age where everyone wants to show something, people easily mistake happiness for something that must be seen from outside. It must look impressive. It must be admired. It must resemble a complete and enviable life. But the Buddha taught that true happiness is for the heart to feel, not for the world to view. Some people appear very complete on the outside, but inside they are painfully empty. They can post every beautiful moment, yet at night they are lonely. Others live quietly, showing almost nothing, yet their hearts are peaceful, their relationships are clean, and their sleep is untroubled. Which of them is truly happy? The answer is not found in what others see, but in what the person themselves experiences within. The Buddha taught that life is for experience, relationships are for connection, money is for proper use, and achievement is for contribution. When all of these become tools of display, their true meaning is lost. People love and still feel the need to prove it. They live joyfully, but still want validation. They do good, but still want everyone to know. And then the heart loses stillness. People who are truly happy often speak less about their happiness. They do not need proof because they are already living it directly. They know the worth of a peaceful meal, a day without mental torment, a relationship free of pretense. They do not look down on simple things, and because of that, they recognize happiness more easily than others do. The Buddha taught us to return to feeling rather than display. Ask yourself, is my heart light? Is my mind clear? Do I sleep well? Am I too dependent on how others see me? If true peace exists within, then even a simple outer life is still a very precious life. The 33rd teaching of the Buddha: forgive, but do not return trust too quickly. This is a very deep and very sober teaching. The Buddha taught forgiveness and compassion, but that does not mean placing trust immediately back into the hands that once wounded you. Forgiveness belongs to the heart. Trust belongs to wisdom. These are not the same thing. Some people are so kind that after being hurt, they quickly reopen the door. They think this makes them noble, but if the other person has not changed, has not really reflected on their wrong, then blind trust only creates another chance for the same wound to repeat. True forgiveness is not the same as forgetting the lesson. The Buddha taught that time must be allowed to test transformation. Anyone can speak promises, anyone can perform regret. But whether a person has truly changed can only be seen in sustained action. Real trust is not built from tears. It is built from consistency and responsibility. This is true not only in romantic relationships, but also in friendship, work, and all daily human connections. The heart is precious. Do not place it too quickly into another's hands simply because you fear loneliness, fear losing a relationship, or fear seeming cold. Protecting your heart is not selfishness. It is self-respect. Forgive so the heart can grow lighter, but choose carefully so life becomes less painful. The Buddha taught the middle way, neither completely closed nor blindly trusting. The person who can love while remaining clear-sighted is the one who can walk far without becoming repeatedly exhausted by the same wound. The 34th teaching of the Buddha: do not think too far ahead. Stand firmly in the present. Much human suffering does not come from the present moment. It comes from far-off thoughts about what has not yet happened. We worry about failing tomorrow, about life falling apart years from now, about someone changing their heart, about the worst possible outcome. The Buddha taught that much mental suffering arises because the mind runs too far, while actual life is happening only in the present. Thinking is necessary. Healthy foresight is also necessary. But when thinking becomes endless looping, it turns into a burden. We have not reached tomorrow, yet we are already exhausted by tomorrow. We have not lost anything, yet we grieve as though it were already gone. We have not yet been rejected, yet we already feel hopeless. Such a restless mind steals the vitality of the present. The Buddha taught that resting in the present does not mean living irresponsibly. It means living awake. Do what today requires. Love the person who is here today. Correct the mistake that is visible today. Let tomorrow be built through the goodness of today's steps. No one can live a good life by worrying alone. When we fully inhabit the present, many fears begin to shrink naturally. Much fear is fed by imagination. The present is often far simpler than the dramatic stories the mind creates. A glass of water in your hand, a breath entering and leaving, one task that must be done, one person sitting in front of you. These things pull us back to reality, where peace becomes possible. The Buddha taught that happiness is not found in controlling the future. It is found in living clearly in the present. When the heart stops running so much, life becomes less exhausting. When the mind stops projecting so far, calmness can enter. The 35th teaching of the Buddha. Be a little foolish in order to keep harmony and goodness. In the eyes of the world, cleverness is often praised. But the Buddha pointed to a very beautiful kind of foolishness, not calculating too much in matters of affection, not becoming too sharp in conflict, not becoming so clever that one loses goodness. Sometimes yielding a little, pretending not to know a little, and not clinging a little is itself wisdom. People who always want to be above, to win, to gain more, usually live a very tiring life. They cannot bear even a small loss. They analyze everything according to advantage. They fear being outsmarted. They appear sharp from the outside, but inwardly they are rarely at ease. Their mind is always on guard, always measuring, always defending position. The foolishness the Buddha pointed to is not stupidity. It is the deliberate choice not to compete in things that are not worth it. It is knowing that fame and gain are not worth trading away your conscience. It is understanding that some victories are joyless. It is seeing further than the immediate advantage in order to preserve long-term harmony. A truly wise person knows when not to compete. Sometimes one small step back preserves a relationship. Sometimes one unspoken sentence preserves moral speech. Sometimes not insisting on your advantage preserves peace in your own heart. That is not losing. That is understanding what truly matters. People who live too sharply often wound others and wound themselves. People who know how to soften at the right moment are more loved, and they live more lightly. The Buddha taught that life is brief. Why must everything become a contest? To preserve goodness, preserve harmony, and preserve a heart that is not too hard toward the world. This is the wiser kind of intelligence. The 36th teaching of the Buddha. Preserve a little sincerity and moral speech. A word can save someone. A word can also destroy someone. The Buddha spoke often about the karma of speech, because words are where the mind reveals itself most quickly. When the heart is not kind, words become harsh. When the mind is not clear, words go astray. That is why preserving sincerity in the way we treat others and preserving moral restraint in the way we speak matters so deeply. Some people never do obvious evil, yet their words still wound very deeply. They mock, expose, criticize, and put others into humiliating positions. Some spread slander as though it were a joke. Some speak with habitual cruelty whenever displeased. Such words may draw no blood, but they leave heavy karma behind because they wound trust, dignity, and the human heart. The Buddha taught that telling the truth is not enough. One must also speak at the right time, in the right way, with the right heart. Some truths do not need to be spoken while someone is in pain. Some corrections must be softened with gentleness. Some stories, if not clearly known, are best left unsaid. Words without sincerity become attack. Words without mindfulness become arrows. Moral speech also means knowing how to stop before speaking, just to release anger. Words spoken in rage do not represent the best part of who we are. They represent a moment of blindness. Once released, they are difficult to retrieve. Many relationships have ended because of just a few unnecessary sentences. Practice speaking words that cool hearts. Practice silence when things are unclear. Practice fewer judgments and more listening. The Buddha taught that blessing arises from the mouth, and suffering also arises from the mouth. A person who guards speech is quietly accumulating blessing every day. The 37th teaching of the Buddha: examine yourself before examining others. The Buddha taught that people find it very easy to notice the faults of others and very difficult to see their own darker corners. We easily see that someone else is angry, selfish, careless, or cold. But when we ourselves show these things, we immediately have reasons and excuses. That is why the true path of cultivation always begins with turning inward. Examining yourself does not mean beating yourself down. It means looking honestly at the actual state of your own heart. Am I living too much in competition? Am I demanding of others what I myself have not achieved? Am I accusing others of being inattentive when I myself have often failed to listen? The moment we dare to ask such questions truthfully, we have already stepped into transformation. A person who is always fixated on others rarely grows in any real way. All their energy flows outward. A person who turns inward may speak less and judge more slowly, but their inner world grows deeper. They do not forget self-correction simply because others are wrong. They do not use another's mistakes to build their own superiority. The Buddha taught that everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Anyone can become a mirror teaching us something. The capable teach us effort. The mistaken teach us caution. Those who hurt us teach us discernment. If we learn to look this way, life itself becomes a vast school rather than a stage for constant judgment. A person who truly examines themselves becomes less blaming, less defensive, less arrogant, and that humility gives them steadier footing in life. The 38th teaching of the Buddha: nurture a good heart in your relationships. The Buddha taught that the way we see others deeply affects how we treat them, and in turn affects our own life. If we always look at people with suspicion, contempt, or defensiveness, relationships become heavy. But if we begin from a good heart, with respect and sincerity, many beautiful things begin to unfold naturally. A good heart does not mean naively trusting everyone. It means the root attitude we bring when meeting another person. Is there respect? Is there kindness? Is there hidden ill will? Is there a desire to compete, belittle, or use? If we change that root, then our whole presence in other people's lives begins to change. In friendship, a good heart means not becoming jealous when your friend grows. In family, it means not using your loved ones as a dumping ground for anger. In love, it means not using one another's pain as a weapon. With strangers, it means not becoming cruel without cause. People who carry a good heart do not need to do anything spectacular, yet wherever they go, they create a sense of safety and ease. The Buddha taught that circumstances shift with the heart. When the heart is full of goodness, the world ahead appears less sharp and less hostile. Not because everyone has suddenly become good, but because we are no longer painting everything with darkness. When inner attitude changes, reaction changes. When reaction changes, results begin to change too. Remember that many beautiful relationships do not begin in perfection. They begin in goodwill, a gaze that does not judge, a word spoken with restraint, a help offered without calculation, a trust given with wisdom. Such small things slowly build warmth into life. And the first person to benefit from that warmth is always yourself. The 39th teaching of the Buddha: a strong person is one who wipes away tears and keeps walking. This teaching gathers the spirit of all the others. The Buddha taught that a truly strong person is not someone who never cries. It is someone who knows how to cry when necessary, then wipe away tears and continue walking. In life, everyone has moments of weakness. Everyone has moments of wanting to let go. Everyone has moments of feeling completely drained. The difference lies in whether, after all of that, you rise again. Maturity does not come from easy days. It is formed through the times you pass through pain without losing your goodness. Through times you are disappointed but do not grow bitter. Through times life presses you to the wall, yet you still refuse to choose a wrong path. That is the deepest strength, a strength that is not loud but makes a human being steadier and steadier over time. The Buddha taught that the road of life is not all smoothness. At times we must carry burdens beyond what we imagined possible. At times we must walk without yet seeing light. But it is exactly in those stretches that we discover our true inner power. No one knows how resilient they are until they have passed through storms. Wiping away tears does not mean denying pain. It means refusing to let pain become your permanent home. You may be tired, but then rest and continue. You may be sad, but then return to the breath and become calm again. You may lose faith, but then learn how to trust again with greater wisdom. The Buddha did not promise a life without storms. He gave us a way to pass through storms without losing ourselves. And that is the true miracle. Not that life suddenly becomes easy, but that you become deeper, stronger, and brighter in the way you meet it. These 39 teachings are not just beautiful sentences to soothe the heart for a few moments. If we only listen and forget, then life will return with the same old anxieties, the same anger, the same wounds. The real value of the Buddha's teaching lies in whether we bring it into our daily life, whether we are willing to reduce a little anger, release a little resentment, judge less, crave less, cling less, live more gently, more deeply, and with more gratitude. A human life does not need to change completely in one day. If today you live a little more clearly than yesterday, that is already practice. If today you stop before speaking something cruel, that is already practice. If today you remember to call your parents, that is already practice. If today you blame one person less, resent one thing less, and turn back to look at yourself, that is already practice. Practice is never far away. It lives in the small choices of an ordinary day. You may not be able to control all of life, but you can always choose how to meet life. Choose kindness over bitterness. Choose clarity over confusion. Choose contentment over endless craving. Choose forgiveness over hatred. Choose to continue rather than remain collapsed in regret. And those choices will quietly change the destiny of your life. If today, among these 39 golden teachings, even one sentence touches your heart, do not let it pass as a temporary feeling. Keep it. Bring it into your life. Let it become light for your darkest days. Because sometimes one awakened sentence arriving at the right moment can save an entire life that was drifting off course. May you, after this video, live a little more lightly, understand life a little more deeply, and love yourself in a wiser way. And from there, may you also love others with a wider and more peaceful heart. If this video has helped you, leave this sentence below. From today, I choose to live more peacefully. And do not forget to subscribe to the Zen Light Wisdom channel so that we may continue together on the journey of calming the mind, understanding the path, and healing from within. If you want, I can continue with a second message and translate the full version into a more cinematic American YouTube style, smoother for narration and better for voiceover retention.